Okay, this here, as you'll probably know, this is a hand router, or sometimes called a granny's tooth. The reason it's called a granny's tooth is if you look at all the cutting chisels that you use, it kind of looks like an old granny's tooth that's kind of sticking out when back in the olden days when they look after their teeth. That's why it's called a granny's tooth. But it's a hand router. Right? Now the hand router, you can replace different blades, so depending on how thick you want to make your, and here this slot that we're making, or this housing joint, we could choose different size chisels depending on the type of job. Okay, at the moment I've got a kind of small chisel so that I can get into the corners and make all the bottom flat. Now the reason that you use a granny's tooth is, right, what we want to do is we want to make the bottom of this housing joint completely flat. And what I've used, I've got a chisel so far and I've removed most of the weight, but it's not completely flat, so it's not really good. So I'm going to use my hand router here, and I'm going to use that just to plane off the bottom, if you like, okay, and it's going to make it nice and flat. To adjust the hand router, right, if you want to move it up and down, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to loosen the thumb screw, and then if I turn it clockwise, that's going to lower the blade, it's going to make it go lower down, and if I turn it anti-clockwise, it's going to move the blade up the way. Right, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my hand router to the depth of the housing joint I want to create there. So I'm going to just set it down to that line that I've marked on the side with my marking gauge earlier. Okay, so I'm going to take the hand router, I'm going to pop it on here, and like I say, I'm looking at that and it just needs to go up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen off the thumb screw, and I'm going to turn the depth gauge wheel so the blade is just in the right place. Then I'm going to tighten up the thumb screw, and that should be us good to go. Okay, so when you're using the hand router, I'm lucky enough my bit of material can fit in the bench vise. Sometimes you might have to clamp it to the table so that you can use it, but the hand router, you'll pop it in here. I'm going to hold both handles, pressing firmly down on it, and then I'm just going to firmly push the cutting chisel, and that keeps it held in the... I'm going to move along the bottom, and I'm scraping it off from one side, and I'm not going to go all the way through because I'll damage the back there. I'm going to stop, I'm going to turn it round in the bench vise, and I'm going to work from the other side. And then once I've finished that, that will have removed the bottom of the housing joint, and it'll all be nice and flat.